years since the heinous attacks on our country. And this year marks, so different and it hits so hard because this year we have, for the first time post 9/11 fatalities, doubling that of those that occurred on the day of the attacks. It is a somber note um, to to um, to reflect upon. But I can tell you right now that we are going to have a very special guest join us in a few moments. His name is Jack Joyce. He's a recipient of the United States Medal of Valor back in July of 2021 for his 9/11 heroism and dedication to advocating for the 9/11 community. We'll talk more with Jack when he calls in, but the phone number, in case you want to join and talk and join the conversation, the phone number is 914-636-0110. Again, that's 914-636-0110. And, just briefly before we get into 9/11 and talking about the various milestones that we're hitting this 22nd year, I just want to touch upon some Mount Vernon updates so that everybody has some context as to what's going on in the city. Very briefly, yesterday it was announced that the Teamsters are doing a work slowdown. They're calling on City Hall to make good on their promise for a contract. That's nothing different than what the police have been calling for, along with many others, CSCA included, seeking City Hall to make good on their word that they were going to invest in them. However, um, as you can see throughout the city, trash is piling up. As a result, it is something that the DPW is using to get the attention of the residents that while we are paying a sanitation tax, the monies that are going toward the trash tax are not reaching the actual department that the money was supposed to be for. So the question is, what's going on with Mount Vernon's money? It's definitely something funny. And, for years, there have been all sorts of accusations and finger pointing. But I come back to the basic fact that there was something always wrong with Mount Vernon's finances going back to the controllers, Reynolds, and her predecessor that I definitely pointed out. And I can only point you to the state of New York controller, Tom DiNapoli's report that was issued in January 2022 that pointed out 178 million of mishandled Mount Vernon tax dollars, but yet nothing has happened to anyone that has mishandled that, from the former controller Reynolds to her predecessor. And that is what really underlies the Mount Vernon's financial problems that we're feeling today. But there are solutions. We'll talk through those at a later time. But I just wanted to point out that, you know, politics as usual continues to hold Mount Vernon back from reaching its full potential. It's very disappointing to see. And even the building department is going through an array of chaos that was acknowledged by City Hall when they called on the state to help them. The question is, how did the building department go from processing permits in a day, literally one day, 4 years ago, to now it can't function at all? And then DPW is not, is on a work slowdown. Monies have been collected for a trash tax, not going toward the department. It really just doesn't add up that Mount Vernon's taxes are increasing, services are being reduced, but yet there's all sorts of monies available to, help the city address issues, but yet there's no real financial transparency or even a plan to really solve these problems. But my door remains open to help the city get through these things. I know that there are ways to get it done. I will be reaching out to the city council to talk with them about what they can do to help solve the problem, because obviously the administration continues to make political promises, mislead people, and then leave them in a lurch like us taxpayers. So city council is going to have to step up, and the controller Morton's going to have to do something, and I'll be talking with them very soon. But nonetheless, on the 9/11 situation, it is 22 years later. I recall it vividly, having lived at NYU, having been a student down there at the time, living below Canal Street. And I'll never forget the day, going to class for 9 o'clock, just kind of get there early, and seeing one of the planes fly over the Waverly building where we were having classes. And I just thought, man, I hope that plane is going to Newark. It's flying so low. And then going into class and coming upstairs, the professor shouted, we're under attack. And then shortly after that, a second plane hit. So watching the towers collapse from Union Square, from Washington Square Park, and then having to be evacuated from my dorm room on Canal Street. Couldn't stay down there for a couple days, and then they let us back in finally. But I can tell you, living below Canal Street, during the cleanup period, you could smell the concrete, the all the ground up glass and steel in the air. You could smell it, you could feel it. And our special guest is a retired FDNY battalion chief who not only received the Medal of Valor, but also led efforts down at 9/11. He led in a group of the bravest, and there's stories of him, Jack Joyce, that is, everybody, our special guest is Jack Joyce. There's stories of him going into a Queens hardware store saying, look, we got to take anything and everything you got because we have a rescue operation down in lower Manhattan. And I get goosebumps just being able to talk about this, because seeing all of the heroism at work and him continue his efforts to the miracle on the Hudson and responding to the Midtown steam explosion in 2007 goes to show you that we truly have someone that is dedicated to the work of the bravest and keeping people safe. Jack, thank you for joining us to talk about the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. And before we get into that infamous day, if you can just let people know a little bit about your background, and how did you become a battalion chief, and then all of a sudden you get the Medal of Valor, one of the highest honors someone can receive. Got it. Hmm. You're on the board. So you there. You understand what it takes, and you understand the sacrifice and the dedication, and recognize, what it means to go above and beyond. And seeing the stories of people come across your desk, and having these conversations with different peers around the country to make a recommendation to the president of the United States is still, a huge testament to the work that you've done over the years to advocate for, public safety, and as well as the 9/11 community. So if you can just bring us back to 22 years ago. You were headed into to you were coming through Queens, is that right? Wow. Right. And approximately 343 firefighters lost their lives that day. And now on the 22nd anniversary, we're approaching a morbid milestone where it's about to happen, where post 9/11 fatalities from 9/11 toxins are about to cause the FDNY to lose more firefighters to 9/11 toxins than that lost their lives that day. Can you just tell everybody a little bit about the air quality, the smell, the stench, how it got on your clothes and your hair, on your skin, and do you remember when the EPA told everyone that the air was safe? What was your reaction? Hmm. Well, hold that thought because we have a quick commercial break. We're going to pick this up. Well, when we come back from a quick commercial break, do not change that dial. Talking 9/11 on what happened here. Go change that dial. Thank you everybody for joining. Yeah, today is a hybrid conversation. I will definitely talk on the issue with respect to Mount Vernon and the garbage situation with DPW, police, CSCA, each are without a contract, and there continues to be this situation where everybody says, "Oh, they want to blame the past administration." You can try to blame me all you want, but I cannot wait to see the blame laid out because I want to respond point for point and split every single hair because the taxpayers and the people deserve to know the truth. And the truth is very simple. Political promises were made to all sorts of people and special interests outside of the city by the current administration, and they are keeping those outsider promises. And you can look around and see all the work being done in Mount Vernon is being done by outside groups. It's not being done by DPW. It's not being done by Mount Vernon residents. It's being done by outsiders who are double and triple billing the city. Period. And if you want to argue that, let's go to one of the sites and let's take a hard look at, the costs. But I'm not even going to start there. Where I want to start is what's being done, what's the vision, what's the plan for the city, and there still isn't one. It's all hyperbole. It's all Facebook. It's all photo ops. It's all nothing. It's a big nothing burger. And that's what I was trying to convey to everyone as we approach the March, time period to get petitions and signatures. But at that moment, City Hall swooped in and said, "Hey, everything is perfect. We're going to give you a contract. Everybody back up. Don't listen to him. He's not telling the truth, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, all right, look at the report. Look at the state audit from DiNapoli. He pointed out at least 200 million in problems that were created by the former controllers. And if you don't have a real plan to deal with that, then you're going to have this problem that you have right now. And right now, Mount Vernon is operating on a cash basis. It under this administration cannot borrow, does not know how to borrow, but only beg for help from others and get political favors done to make it look like there's something happening. Meanwhile, taxes have gone up, sewer taxes going up, water tax, crash tax, all this money's being pumped in, and nothing's reaching the residents or the workers. So we'll pick up on this some more later on in the show. But I just want to make it clear I'm waiting to see what they got to say so I can make sure we all have the facts and truth to respond to it, point for point. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here, and we're here every Wednesday on WVOX, 1460 on your AM dial, or worldwide on WVOX.com from 12 noon to 1 p.m., asking the question, what happened here with the particular situation? In this episode, we're focused on 9/11, the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. It is so different than many others because this is the first year where, we have new laws taking effect. We have information out that shows that post 9/11 fatalities are now doubled in that of the day. And we also have with us a very special guest, someone that led the rescue and recovery efforts down at 9/11, retired FDNY Battalion Chief, also named to the board of the United States Medal of Valor Committee that selects people of heroism for the President of the United States to recognize. Jack Joyce, an ardent advocate for 9/11 community, but also has some breaking news that he'll share later on in the show. But before we went to break, Jack was commenting on how um, he detected something was awry with the reports from the United States EPA when they said the air quality was good. But he had reports when he moved into the mayor's office of emergency management that suggested otherwise. Jack, you were telling us about this situation that you saw. Can you tell us some more? and seeing everyone come together and support not only the recovery effort, but also unite around, you know, reminding everybody that America is resilient and seeing, the destruction, the death, but also the deception. You being a first responder, leading groups, helping rescue and recover, but also leading the cleanup. It immediately after, the site was cleaned. Well, let's before I get to the actual cleanup of May of 2002, there was a fire. There was a fire underground for 100 days. I just want to talk about that when we come back from break, and then I want to get into some of the more news that you're going to break on the next segment. Don't change that dial. Listen to what happened here. We got some breaking news coming up next. So everybody, my special guest is Jack Joyce, retired FDNY battalion chief, um, talking about some phenomenal things, phenomenal experiences that he's sharing with us, inside accounts of his time at 9/11 and his struggle to try and get the truth out about the air quality, and how it threatened, um, the lives of the people he was working with, from construction workers to his firefighter brothers, and all the people that were down there working to find their loved ones. So, truly, a heroic story. And when we come back from break, we're going to finish some of that dialogue about, the underground fires that burned for 100 days and then the cleanup. But the period between 2002 and 2008 or 2010, before the Zadroga Act was passed, just wanted to get his feedback on how it felt like a slap in, how he felt that the country turned its back on those that started to get sick after 9/11. And then want to know from him what's up with the breaking news that he wants to break, so we can, dive into that and what it means as we get ready to wrap up the show. So just stay tuned and stay with us. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to 1460 on your AM dial or worldwide at WVOX.com. Now, we have a very special segment. We're focusing on 9/11, the 22nd anniversary of 9/11, and our special guest is Jack Joyce, retired FDNY battalion chief, named to the board of the U.S. Medal of Valor Committee back in July 2021, but also served in the New York City Mayor's Office of Emergency Management, where he was responsible for running operations at the World Trade Center terrorist attack site. He worked on the Miracle on the Hudson, the Sully situation where they landed a plane in 2009 on the Hudson River, as well as the Midtown steam explosion. Someone of extreme experience and major heroism, leading the bravest into some of the most difficult circumstances. On with us is Jack Joyce. And before we went to break, we started to talk about the fires that were burning underground for 100 days after the attacks. and wanted to kind of just touch base into, that period that he was describing. He would sit to have lunch, and then the dust cloud would, you know, envelope his burger. He would have to dust off the dust that he's being told is totally safe and fine, but it's on his burger. So, Jack, can you just bring us back to the fires burned for 100 days underground? That must have been an impossible situation. How did you guys manage to get those fires out?
Well, I mean, this one of the group of right. Well,
Wow. And meanwhile, the EPA is saying, "Don't worry, the air is safe. Everybody go back to work. Don't worry." And then, fast forward, people start getting sick, and then that fight to get health benefits from Congress. Can you tell us what that, just taking a few steps forward, how did that make you feel? What was your reaction to seeing, Congress, nobody step up to help you?
well, originally it was disappointing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
I
Hmm. Wow.
so
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
2.5 hours.
That's right. And the memories of the families of the victims of 9/11 and the forgotten victims of 9/11. You know, I've you know I live down there, so when I go down there, it's a definitely a different experience. And I actually had a job working in Tower One on the 86th floor, but I was not called in that day. So I can tell you that I have a very different relationship with 9/11, and I can only tell you that I'm curious about the 9/11 museum down there and what are they doing to kind of um, help families and help America celebrate the heroism and also reflect on the sacrifice that happened. Is there anything there that we should be thinking about?
Well, one.
Mm. Mm. Mhm. And before we come back, you got to know he's talking about Senator Ted Cruz from Texas is going to make a big statement on 9/11 about. You're going to hear it first right here on WVOX. Don't change that dial. Listen to what happened here. You guys stay right there. Don't change the dial. We're listening to Jack Joyce, retired FDNY battalion chief, talking about 9/11, and he has some news that he's breaking. He already made the first point about how the 9/11 memorial is privately operated by an entity, and he's advocating for it to become a national monument run by the U.S. Parks Department through an act of the Department of Interior. And he's got some support, it looks like, coming up from the South, and we'll talk about what that is and what it looks like when we come back from break. So don't change the dial. Hang on. Here we come. Right back from break. Quick break. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Rich Thomas, former mayor of Mount Vernon. You're listening to What Happened Here, and we are on our final segment. We have a focus special on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. And our special guest is retired FDNY Battalion Chief Jack Joyce, also a committee member of the U.S. Medal of Valor Committee, sharing his experience and insight and wisdom from uh, responding to 9/11 to leading rescue and recovery operations at 9/11, but also his latest advocacy for the 9/11 memorial to become a national monument. And before we went to break, he was telling us about his um, outreach and embracement by a senator, a United States senator, that's looking to help out the effort to ensure that 9/11 and the forgotten victims are never forgotten. So, Jack, can you finish telling us about, bring us back to, you said you were talking to a senator from where and who and what's going on with this senator?
Oh, man. Situation. Action of the national party. Situation.
Right. Hmm.
Correct. Well,
Hmm. I knew it was privately operated, and I had some run-ins with them when we're trying to do some outreach in media down there to bring attention to issues around 9/11, and they made it clear that it was private property, and I was surprised that it's not a national park. So I definitely support the effort to make it a national monument and a national park. And I can only tell you that I recall when the 9/11 Notice Act was introduced for legislation in New York, it was a coalition of assembly members, Assemblymember Nader Sayed from Yonkers, Assemblyman Gary Pretlow from Mount Vernon. You had Senator Brian Kavanaugh from whose district covers the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan. They all came together and were trying to do a press conference saying, "Hey, we need to find forgotten victims of 9/11." And they had to do their press conference across the street with Michael Barish, who represented the late NYPD detective Zadroga, who for whom the Zadroga Act is named after. So here you have a group of 9/11 leaders and advocates trying to make a difference, and they're being told you have to do it across the street. So that was one of my wake up calls that something has to happen. But to fast forward, the 9/11 Notice Act did get passed unanimously in New York State. Now organizations that operated between 2001 September 11th through May 30th, 2002, they must go back and notify their employees or students that they were exposed to 9/11 toxins, and they are eligible for health care and victims compensation. That's a great thing because a lot of people don't know. There are a lot of people that went back to work. Like you mentioned, you were told that your report could not go out. Everybody had to believe that it was safe, but it wasn't. So there are a lot of people, including me, that were exposed to the toxins that you breathed and even eaten, and people need to register. So I can only tell you that at the very least, some milestones and some good things are coming out of it, but it takes unfortunately more time than it should.
never got the tree. The whole thing followed him on
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
you know,
Well, what I can tell you is this has been an important show. I hope everybody that listened gained a lot more insight, respect, and reverence for our first responders, starting with Jack Joyce, who did one of the bravest acts ever. Thank you, Jack, for joining us. As everybody get ready to celebrate and reflect on 9/11 next week, Monday, don't forget the forgotten victims of 9/11 and look forward to more information coming out soon. Everybody stay safe and have a great weekend. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for everything. And God bless the victims of 9/11. So I'm going to wrap up now. Just want to say thank you all for joining. Uh, this was a very important topic to me. As you know, I lived down below Canal Street during 9/11 and was supposed to be in the buildings. Supposed to be in Tower One at work for the May Davis Group. But I'll talk more about that on Monday when I do a special post and reflection on 9/11. But I just want to say thank you again to my special guest, Jack Joyce, for joining and sharing your insight and expertise. Truly remarkable, but also his new cause of advocating for the 9/11 memorial to become a national park is something that I believe we all should take a hard look at because, it is a national tragedy. It should be a national monument, but we'll get into that next week. I believe he said, and you heard it here first, that Senator Ted Cruz will join him to advocate to the New York and New Jersey delegations to support every effort to make the World Trade Center memorial, the 9/11 memorial, a national monument, and it's a good thing for our country, especially at a time when everybody's so separated. Bringing people together is a great thing. So, with that, I just want to about 9/11. Want to talk about it? Don't hesitate to reach out to me. Also, on the Mount Vernon front, you want to talk about it? Send me a DM. I'll host a Zoom webinar discussion on it, inviting the whole city to talk through the issues that are before us from the building department, the DPW police, and I invite and challenge the administration to try and point to anything that they claim that I did that would cause any of this. And I can't wait for them to point to anything because I know that we did everything in our power to avoid this situation. And it's only going to get worse because from what I can see and what you can smell, they're doing nothing but just talking. They're doing all talk, 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 making political promises, playing the politics. And look at us now, taxes up, rent up, crime up, no contracts for any of the unions that are working for the city. And all they want to do is try and point the finger and pass the blame. But don't worry about that. We'll unpack it and make it very clear that this is all part of what I believe to be, manipulating democracy in Mount Vernon to benefit a small group of people that are making egregious amounts of money off of the city, and it shouldn't be that way. Mount Vernon should be in a much different place than it is right now. Our taxes shouldn't be this high, the rent shouldn't be this high, and we should have a much cleaner, safer city than we have, especially better run. Look at the buildings department. It was operating, but now it's not. So look, I look forward to talking this through. Looking forward to what City Hall has to lie about next. Talk to you guys soon. Looking forward to it. Don't forget to send me a DM if you have any questions. You want some specific answers. More than happy to share. Thank you all.